You are now tuned in to United Football Media. Tell me about it. The #1 recap, wraparound, and preview show for the United Football League. Coming to you from the #1 spring football media conglomerate, the United Football Media. We are the DAR sports team, and we are here to recap your Week 10, some playoff previews, some games where some guys primarily are fighting for their dreams, trying to get tape, trying to show off what they can do, the last chance before their season ends and they head off into the summer to maybe get invited to camps, to maybe not. Saturday was very interesting because we were here pondering last week, how are these teams going to treat these games? Where was it going to be like a preseason thing? A lot of time in the NFL, you see teams that are about to play in the playoffs against each other. They got no starters in the game. They got the very vanilla game plans. But both of these teams went full go, full blast, full at it because both games had possible home field advantage on the line. And it was two games that came down to 1 point, two games that ended in basically the same way, with the kicker of the losing team being put in position to possibly win the game and not being able to come through, especially surprising for the first game that we're going to cover. Michigan Panthers, they got Jacob Bates within 53 yards, which is well within what we've seen him hit over the course of the season. He misses real nasty numbers actually on both sides of this matchup. Danny Etling, only 50% completion. I don't know why they went with him and didn't have Bryce Perkins getting another week of getting comfortable in this offense, because he's been such a great weapon, but that was the choice that was made by Mike Nolan. The bright side, though, is the Panthers were right with them at home, and this Panthers defense got 5 sacks against the best offensive line probably in the entire league. Our guy, Brilliant Speaks, again, right up there with the league leaders in sacks, getting through. So I think, there are no moral victories, but the Panthers have to come away feeling like they can definitely compete. They can definitely go in there and get a win. Especially sticks out this pass rush doing so well against this phenomenal pass protection offensive line. Adrian Martinez, nothing too spectacular, but solidified, I think, maybe his MVP candidacy. 200 total yards between passing and rushing, a touchdown. Panthers hung in there. They battled. Some interesting stats. In the end, it's a close game. I think if they play again, when they play again next week in the playoffs, it could be a different outcome. I'm interested to see what my guy FBI Tugboat on the PAWD podcast for the Panthers is going to have to say about the performance here and how things went. Buck and Scout, of course, Stallions run, locking into the playoffs. It's nice to be able to lock into the playoffs, but also count a win. Axe, tell me about it, man. Interesting stuff here. Michigan and Stallions. And also, let me add, as always, at about the 25, 28, 30-minute mark of this pod, we'll be doing previews for next week. And this week, it's going to be playoff previews. So if you're here for previews, just skip on ahead to that, and we'll be doing that at that about mark of the show. Axe, tell me what you took away from this Panthers Stallions round 1.
I took away that it would be an intriguing matchup. It was a defensive slugfest. Not a lot of chunk plays. Jake Sternbrenner made another huge play, as he has been all season. Best tight end in the UFL.
Okay. Gave it to him over Sal Cannella, huh?
Sal Cannella's been great.
Yeah.
I think, Sternbrenner is a little bit more impactful, in my opinion.
Okay.
But, they show championship grit. They can win in a variety of ways, whether it be blowout or whether it's close. Breland Speaks, arguably defensive player of the year, like we predicted. 10.5 sacks on the season. So
10.5 sacks in 10 games is nasty business, man. Goodness.
Just super productive, always in the backfield. So Michigan's always going to be in the game. So it's going to be another close defensive battle, I believe, next week. But I don't know. I don't agree with bringing back Etling after being off for a couple weeks either. I felt like it was in good rhythm with Perkins. I feel like that potentially could disrupt things. especially since Perkins is such a good threat in the run game. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I would go back with Perkins, in my opinion.
Yeah, he looked real dynamic. He looked at a real dynamic dimension to this offense. So it's tough.
But shout out to Birmingham once again, coming through in the clutch, strong on both ends once again. And like you said, Martinez probably solidified his case for the MVP, even though he didn't have a high completion percentage. But that's a credit to Michigan's defense, who's been strong all season. And that's what's been carrying them to having this great record.
True. Tell me about it. What'd you take from this game?
Man, I think it shows just how close these two teams are. I think defense is like, it feels like their defenses are neck and neck. I think the difference is going to come down to the offense, and I think the Stallions just have slightly better offense. Also, you guys mentioned, bringing Etlin back was confusing, and I do agree. I think Perkins would have been a smarter choice. When you have consistency and continuation with your team, you'd want to keep that going, especially heading into the playoffs. So if they make the decision to switch it again or stick with Etling, like, we don't know what's going to happen next week or who you're going to go with or what's the game plan. So I feel like for the Panthers, they showed flashes that they can get this done. And I mean, the Stallions did not have an all-world performance in this game on offense, and it was very, very close. Went down to the wire. I assumed that the Panthers were going to win when it came down to the obvious field goal from our guy Bates, but didn't work out. My thing is, if I'm the Stallions, I'm not trying to let it come down to that again, because one miss, sure, doubt he misses the next. So like I said, I saw flashes, like Ax mentioned. Martinez, I don't think he had the greatest game, but that MVP has been his for the last couple weeks. Birmingham finishes the season 9-1. Great momentum, for this entire season that they've put on, and they look still to me like the strongest team. It's just that the Panthers, all they gotta do is come out and be as hungry as they've been, and they can pull it off. So it's just so interesting. For the last week of the regular season, we get these two previews, and we got absolutely amazing down to the wire games in both, and I'm just really excited for these playoffs, man. So Stallions did what they had to do. They're gonna have to do a lot better than that next week if they want to keep the ball rolling. So,
two awesome matchups. Very excited. San Antonio, St. Louis, the second of our Saturday playoff matchup previews. Again, 1 point, 12-13. Battlehawks overcome the Brahmas. Both offenses struggling, both defenses stepping up. It was AJ McCarron's worst game of the season by far. This Brahmas defense, man, really, really solid. I think overachieved what a lot of people expected for them. They are phenomenal, legit, arguably the best defense in the league. It was a little bit shocking to see how much Chase Garbers especially struggled in this game. Dermody looked like Quentin Dermody. It's tough. You hope Chase Garbers can kind of get it together, put together a full game, get back to looking like he was earlier on in the season. Hopefully this coaching staff, AJ Smith, this crew, they were able to identify the reasons and the schemes that made them have such shortcomings this week, because you expect a lot more out of that Brahmas offense. John Trey Kirkland, our guy, perfect cherry on top of a wide receiver of the year type season. I think there'll be arguments between him, Hakeem Butler, but I think that's your two all UFL wide receivers right there, whichever one you go with. 7 receptions, 127 yards, a touchdown, just 37-yard long play. Phenomenal. Brahmas got down into position late in the game. Ryan Santoso could not hit the 51-yarder to put them over and give them the win. Again, same thing. Defense is getting the better of it here. I think the Brahmas got to feel good, though. I think they can absolutely pull it off, even going into the Dome coming up this week. Ax, tell me about it.
It was a competitive game, especially in the second half. The crazy thing about it was, after Kirkland had the 37-yard touchdown, which is off a contested catch, like, it was pressure. contested catch, and then he had ran all the way down. He got the 2-point conversion, but St. Louis's coach, they called a super challenge on a legal man downfield. And that took away the 2-point conversion. So the Brahmas actually were ahead 14-13 at one point. And that point got taken away.
Hey, man.
So the Brahmas technically kind of won the game if it wasn't for that super challenge.
I'm sure that's what they'll feel like down there on the Brahma bullpen, down there, out there in the cow pasture. I'm sure that's how they'll feel.
Hey, they center was like 15 yards downfield, though. Like, it was blatant.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even really argue. He was like way downfield. But Kirk,
did it really affect the play, though?
You can judge for yourself on the highlights.
Hey, the rules are the rules, right? God damn it. Or yeah.
But yeah, like the thing is, it was a competitive game. But I expect McCarron to play a little better. He looked like he wasn't 100% off that ankle. After the game, he was frustrated with one of the Brahmas players. He felt like they was targeting the ankle a little bit.
Yeah. McCarron's kind of a whiner. It's all right.
But, I expect Butler to make plays, but that Brahmas defense is tough. Like with Mosley, Javante, and then Jordan Williams. It's just so many playmakers on that Brahmas defense. So I'm expecting another low-scoring game. But hopefully, like you said, Garbage can come back because Dormady, he makes me a little nervous at times with his accuracy issues.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going into the Battle Dome and taking a win with Quentin Dormady as your quarterback. I just don't know if you're doing that. So it's going to be a major factor rolling into next week. True. What'd you think, man?
I'll say this. What was that line at the beginning of the season on the Brahmas? Plus 1,600.
Plus 1,600. Woo.
I think after watching their performance, even though it wasn't a great performance and they still lost the game, like Ag said, they had the opportunity to be up and win this game. So I think you take that and say, hey, what can we improve on from this game, and what can we do better? The Battlehawks are the Battlehawks, but the Battlehawks didn't look like the Battlehawks we've seen.
World beaters, yeah.
So there's a chance, like you said, AJ could be still feeling the effects of that injury, and that could, and how could that play into going into? And I think we talked about it last week, right? Like if he wasn't 100% ready, probably shouldn't play him. And they played him, and he doesn't look 100% ready. So that is something to think about for next week. And if he feels like he's been quote unquote targeted, I mean, hey, I can't say anything or speak to that. That's whatever. But I feel like what I saw is that these teams are closer matched than I think most people would have expected them to be when the season started. I think, and now as the season evolved, the Brahmas defense is crazy. They have a great defense. They've had a great defense majority of the season, and it feels like the Battlehawks got off to a fiery start, but they're slowly, because of injuries. Obviously, they have an injury to AJ, but it's like there's other little things there where it's like they're not as crisp on, and not as focused on certain things, and it almost cost them the game today. So you can't make the same mistakes. You can't have the same level of play from your quarterback who was supposed to be, arguably the guy this year. I don't think a lot of us expected, Martinez to turn into the guy, the MVP, especially when we talked about it in preseason stuff. But AJ was a guy we kept saying he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that. Next week, injury or not, you have the opportunity to do that. So, like I said, I love this Brahmas team though. Nobody thought, the odds makers did not think, and I love seeing stories like that. So, there's a part of when we get into that's pulling for them, and I think they showed that they could compete and they can go in somewhere and win. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's a rough loss, but you could always say, hey, not for that challenge. We had y'all. So
I mean,
there you go.
Not to set myself up to repeat a point multiple times because we would do the previews. Definitely going to say this, but to go out there and have your quarterbacks put up those kinds of numbers, like the Brahmas did, have it be that ugly, and technically at a point, you could kind of feel like you won the game. if not for a guy drifting too far downfield than he was supposed to. Didn't really affect the play. It really, you could feel like hey, we beat them, right? And then they got taken away by the challenge.
Yep.
That's a pretty good confidence booster when your quarterbacks performed as poorly as they did, to feel like you really had them right in your sights and
on the road.
Yeah, on the road, and a referee call
yeah.
made that change. That's it's big stuff. So yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking about it soon. Interesting here on the Renegade, as the Renegades they flipped it. They pulled the Renegades, but they are on the winning side as they get at the last thing. But a special feature of this game is that Axe, you were down there, a part of Rowdy Outy, a part of this game, which was excellent, back and forth battle. Luis Perez doing what we know he can do, upper 200s, 3 touchdowns, threw a couple of picks. Shout out and respect to him, the king of spring. There's rumors going around that might be his last game. Showed out. Arlington got the win. Tiamu and the defenders had a chance to drive down the field. It got closed out with a sack. Could not avoid it, which is very summative of that season because their pass pro has been so bad all year. It closed out their season with a loss. Arlington gets the win. Luis Perez possibly riding off into the sunset with a victory. Tell us about your experience down there, man.
Man, first off, like, the crowd was dope. Like, everybody was cool. Event staff was cool. It was a nice experience. Like, it was nice outside. It was a competitive game. Like, shout out to the DC Defenders. It was dope. It was a dope atmosphere. I took my father-in-law. He said he definitely wants to come back. So, like, shout out to the Defenders for just having a great atmosphere there. But as far as the game's concerned, Chris Rowland really stood out. Like, even before I looked at the stats, I had told my father-in-law, I was like, he's probably the best special teams return man in the league, like, arguably. And he showed it tonight. He had 84-yard touchdown. Like, seeing that live, every time he touched the ball, the whole stadium just stood up. Like, they just knew something electric was coming. It was like a Devin Hester type scenario. That's what it kind of felt like. He got the defenders to like the 40-yard line minimum every time. He had like a 70-yard return. Like, he literally had 275 yards in kick returns alone. Then he had like 30 receiving yards and return yards too. So he had over 300 all-purpose yards today. So really impressive.
I could foresee him being in some camps as well. Probably,
sure.
Whenever the season ends, depending on what the United Football Media's plan is, we'll do a all camp team. Talk about what guys we expect to see in camps. Maybe we'll just do that over on the DAR page if they don't want us here. For sure though. Roland, bad man.
Yeah. Also, definitely saw that the defenders shot themselves in the foot a lot. Like, one possession, it was 3rd and 26. They had a defensive holding, and then they gave them the first down. And Arlington later scored on that drive. So it was just like they would get stops occasionally, and then they'll have a penalty to like sabotage what was going on. And the defender fans, they really don't like Tiamu too much. When he did have time to throw, like, the line is bad, but we did have time. He was pretty inaccurate, but he did have some good touchdowns. So we had like some nice chunk plays. Brandon Scott had some big plays. So Tyler Vaughns, he stood out a lot as far as the Arlington side. Like, he had a great game. Sal Cannella had a great game. Perez forced a couple throws. I just felt like DC had so many opportunities in great field position, just squandered it. They didn't take advantage. Like, 2 interceptions, return man getting almost 300 yards. That's so many opportunities to score. And just they ate so many sacks. And the run game, once again, just really didn't have it going. So the stagnation, the run game, giving up too many chunk plays, just the story of DC's season. But it was a great game, though. I'm glad I was there, 32-31. I couldn't really ask for more. Like, it was a great atmosphere.
True. What'd you think of the Renegades getting a opposite Renegade result? DC ending their season in fitting fashion.
I mean, if you've seen any of these games from these teams this year, this is exactly what we've come to know them for. The defenders could have such a better record. They could be in a much different position than they are. But, Tiamu just has not been productive. Like I said, their pass protection has not been great. Their defense has been wonky, definitely hit or miss, depending on what week it is. Sometimes you get a decent defensive performance, sometimes you won't. They've been as middle of the road as you can expect from any team. And I was like, hey, you got a chance to at least get a little bit of confidence trying to go into next year. And maybe, obviously you're going to restructure some things and move some things around in your roster and try to make improvements. But you could at least get that feel-good feeling of like, hey, we didn't have the best start. We closed it out this year. And you had every opportunity to do it, and you messed it up. For the Renegades, once again, you'd have to slap yourself because you're like, man, if we could have just closed out those, 2 or 3 other games, we could be in a better position as well. And it's just everything about these teams that we know, we saw. The Renegades barely hanging on and winning. The defenders dropping the ball when they had the opportunity to win. This is exactly what we have seen from both of these teams. And I'll tell you what, I don't take too much from this game for next year because obviously these teams are going to probably look different. We don't know what the future holds. But for the defenders, you have to be watching these games, these battlehawks and brahmas games, these the Panthers and Stallions, and you have to be like, man, we had so many chances to be in that position and we blew it. The Renegades probably feel the same way. We had Luis Perez going out there and doing his thing a lot of times, and we just couldn't get it done. But we managed to find our way from being winless to 3 wins at the end of the season. So for the Renegades, I guess you pat yourself on the back for finding a way to get 3 wins. But the game itself, it's just what we've seen already. It's exactly what we've seen already. Down to a T. This season ended exactly how it's gone the entire time, with 2 great games, obviously on Saturday, and then the defenders just blowing it. The Renegades finally managing to hold on and win close games. So it's like every storyline that's played out this year is connected, just as with the I'm not even going to talk about the other game. I don't even want to talk about the other game.
One last thing about the game. I was sitting 4 rows behind the Renegades bench. The Renegades offensive lineman was getting ready to go into the stands and fight some of the defenders fans. It was way too spicy. Like, security had to step in and tell them to chill out. They was getting ready to throw a couple fans out. So, like, Arlington was fired up. If they watching, like,
that's football, baby. That's football right there, baby. That's football. Yes, sir.
Like, you want to pick an offensive lineman out of all the players?
Yeah,
like,
it's tough. That's the reputation down there. That's what it's called, rowdy outy. Not just that the people show up, but that they're in there acting up, acting crazy. So that's living up to the rep. So first here on Tell Me About It, we're gonna cover a game that's actually in motion right now. Mostly, seasonal recap. By the way, speaking of seasonal recap, I'm very excited to see what Alex and Webb got to say about this DC Defenders season. Put a little more moratorium on it. Put a little cap on it at the end. Also interested to see my guy on the Hellraisers, what they got to say about this Renegades season and how things went for them. Little peek behind the curtain. We're actually all simultaneously together right now. A small snippet of a live stream situation as the Showboats and the Roughnecks are wrapping up their game. It's about 2 minutes left. Roughnecks are trying to drive right now, trying to take this lead here right at the end. Real ho-hum game for most of it. We went to half 3-3. Both of these teams showing why, offensively at least, why they're in the toilet bowl here at the end, battling it out for the first draft pick, which is, I guess, the stakes in the game, but I never really understood why something like that would motivate a player. But in this league, luckily, The players are motivated by the fact that, again, they're getting tape. This is their chance at their dream. They're trying to show what they got. So it's about, they just hit the 2-minute warning there in Memphis. Both teams' offense is struggling. I like the way this Roughnecks offense has looked, though, when they do keep Nolan Henderson in the game, when they run the speed option, when they get him moving. I think we've said this for a couple of weeks. Hoping that they keep rolling with that when they go into next year, hoping that Nolan Henderson is the guy that they build around. And for this Memphis Showboats, man, there's no shortage of things to say about what can be improved, what can be done. Axe, thoughts on the game, thoughts on going forward for both the Roughnecks and the Showboats. Of course, Roughnecks Rundown, one of our finest shows here on United Football Media. My guy Ace, excellent. Again, you better check that show out before you gotta pay a subscription to see that man somewhere, because he's a future SiriusXM star, I am convinced. And then also, of course, we got our guy Brandon, who I'm sure will be coming back to this show soon enough to commune with us about this Showboat season. It's been awesome working with all those guys. So check out Captain's Log there with Brandon. Check out Roughnecks Rundown, Ace, United Football Media. Axe, thoughts on the game, thoughts on these teams going forward?
It's pretty rough. I do believe Houston needs to move forward with Nolan Henderson. Yep. It just seems like the offense pops a little bit more with him. Out of all three quarterbacks they've had, it seems like he has the best rhythm. So I believe they need to move forward with him. As far as Memphis, I don't think they come back with Case Cookus. I initially said it a couple weeks ago, but I've been seeing more people talk about it. They don't even know if the team's going to even remain in Memphis.
That'll be a topic for a show we'll probably do in the offseason.
That's what, like,
I have thoughts.
Yeah, I said it initially. Somebody said, Orlando wasn't a good spot in the comments. I was like, oh, okay. I'll take your word for it, because they seem like a reliable source.
I mean, there's lots of good markets out there. There's Oklahoma City. There's
Richmond.
Louisville's a big city that doesn't have any football. Columbus, capital city there in Ohio, crazy state. They already have the Canton Bulldog. They have the Canton Bulldogs namesake trademark already ready to go. I'm a supporter of putting some of these teams in like smaller markets, smaller rabid markets who would never have a shot at pro football. I think Benson Stadium is the perfect size. They could pack it in, even though it's smaller, it could be a little more packed, look a little better. But I also have thoughts on the Memphis thing, because, The Rock is a part owner of this league. Memphis is very near and dear to him. There's rumors that maybe next year we start looking at some private ownership, selling these teams. And I know the CEO of FedEx, is a huge supporter of the Showboats, very interested in the success of the team. So those could be factors too.
But yeah, just real disappointing. I kind of predicted both teams to be like out of the playoffs before the season, but I didn't expect one win for each team. So I think both teams probably either are going to have different coaching staffs or just different rosters completely. I think 1-8 calls is for like a roster overhaul. It'll be some guys that's going to get some camp invites like Daywood Davis,
yep,
and some others, but overall, I don't know. Like, some of these guys will probably come back, but I don't know. I think in like the core positions, especially Memphis, they're gonna have to get a whole new quarterback, in my opinion. Like, Love is okay, but I don't know if he didn't show enough to be like he's a quarterback of the future for them, in my opinion.
Their offensive line has been the press protection has been so poor as well. So that's going to definitely need to overhaul as well. True. It's I know, there's some disappointment. This is going to be the last week that we're going to get the Memphis Showboat smile out of you. The Showboat smile out of you. It's been a glorious season for you in the Memphis Showboats. Thoughts on the game, thoughts on things going forward.
Well, as far as the game, it hasn't been a very entertaining game for me, and it's hard to care about meaningless games, and this is a really meaningless game for both teams. Obviously, like you said, some guys are trying to go out there and try to get some camp invites, try to get some eyes on what they can do.
Darius Victor and David Davis, those are two camp invite all-stars, I would say, when we do our all camp invite show here in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Definitely.
So you have those guys going out there to play for that, and I thought that would have maybe made the game a little bit better and a little bit more exciting, but it just didn't do that. And I think for me, it saddens me, man. I've had so much fun just watching the downfall of the Showboats, and I called it in the beginning. And it's so funny. I could have picked any team in the world to be like, oh, and then Brandon came on here, and I was like, you know what? Everything that you guys do this season is not going to go well, and they're about to finish 1-9 or 2-8. I mean, how is that for some terrible
I just think it's funny how the beginning of the season we see this pattern, and all of us are just like, I don't get it. Why are the Showboats rated so high by so many people? Like, can someone please explain this? And everybody, all these USFL guys, they're no, the Showboats, man, USFL All-Stars, the Showboat. And we're like, I just don't understand where you're getting this from. I don't get it. And then they tried to explain it. No, you're gonna see. And
we saw nothing.
We saw nothing. All right. We saw
nothing.
Houston driving on them as we speak.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna jump into the playoff previews, but yeah, we'll keep you abreast when the game wraps up. Nolan Henderson on the roll. Dynamic, baby.
About like a 4-yard gain. Yep.
What we are gonna see, what we did see is the Showboats sinking to the bottom of the Mississippi. But what we're gonna see is some excellent playoff matches next week. I'm pumped. First one, Saturday, Panthers at Stallions. Like we said, the Stallions, you got to feel good. You have to completely feel like you belong on the same field as these guys after what we saw this week, after we saw in their last matchup. And we've seen the Stallions overcome the best of the best. They went into DC. They got that thing done at Rowdy Outy. They beat the Battlehawks week 1. Stallions can play with these guys. Are they gonna pull it off, though? I'm gonna go with yes. Because you know what's difficult? Beating a good team twice. You know what's even more difficult than that? Beating a good team 3 times. I think all that Mike Nolan has been able to, all the tape he's been able to get on these guys, all the experiences against them, I think the Panthers' law of averages, they're going to pull it off this time. I'm going Panthers with the upset, putting us halfway to the all against all odds bowl, which is what it would be, because pretty much all the odd makers, all the sports books had Michigan and San Antonio 7 and 8, or 8 and 7, flipped around, whichever way. The against all odds bowl, we'll have one half of it, I think. I'm going Panthers. What do you think there, Axe?
Yeah, well,
can't ride with me. I got you. It's all right.
I'm gonna say this: the Panthers are gonna keep it close and competitive. I believe their best chance is to start Perkins. If they start Etling, or if they start EJ Perry, if he comes back somehow, then I don't really see it. But
you better hope it doesn't, because if Tay hears what you just said and they do pull it off, oh Lord, Jesus, next week's show.
But I believe the Stallions are gonna play well. I believe Martinez will have a higher completion percentage. I believe the receivers can play a little bit better than they did, because Sternberger led them in receiving yards this past game. So I believe Deion Kane and Benjamin Victor and Marvin Williams can become bigger factors next week. So I believe it'll be a little bit more high scoring, in my opinion. And I got the Stallions pulling it out. I do think the Panthers keep it close. I think Breland Speaks and Nakua have their moments. They'll make plays. It's not going to be a blowout, but I just had the Stallions winning. But I'll say about like 7 or 8, in my opinion.
Oh,
Just because
I mean,
the uncertainty of the Panthers quarterback situation.
Yeah.
That
It's tough to play the best team in spring football. I mean, let's be real here. The best team in spring football over the last 4 years with uncertainty at your quarterback position. There's nothing wrong at all with that pick. You know, how do you not pick a team that's what is it? 15-game winning streak, only lost 3 games over 3 years, all these crazy stats. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. True. What do you think, man? You going chalk? Or are we getting one half of the Against All Odds Bowl?
I think these last couple weeks for the Stallions have been kind of like, we're just trying to get to the finish line. We're just trying to get through it. We've already secured ourselves a playoff spot weeks ago. So we're just trying to get to the playoffs. And then we're going to turn into the team that was dominating and undefeated for those first, basically those first 4 to 5 weeks. They were escaping certain games, and in some games they were putting the beats on people. So I think they'll come in more focused, more ready to go. It's playoffs. This is game time. You can't, you lose, you're gone. It's it. You're not advancing. So I'm gonna go with the Stallions just because if looking at the teams that I would trust the most in these type of situations, Stallions have that experience. They have that success. Got to route with the Stallions on that. But it is very possible the Panthers pull it off because, once again, it's win or go home, right? So, win. So the Panthers very well could come out there and be that scrappy underdog that we've seen them be all season. So
yeah,
it's possible, but I'm gonna still ride with the Stallions just because they've proven to be the best team in the league. So it's hard to bet against the best team in the league, but it could happen. It could definitely happen.
Gosh. You know what? 2-1. You guys both picked the Stallions. Tay is going to be a menace on this show next week if the Panthers pull it off. So we'll see.
We shall see.
Our other matchup, I'm excited. You'll be getting some great previews from both the Brahma Bullpen here on United Football Media and from Battle Talk with our man Noah Monday afternoon. Probably later on in the week will be the preview. This is a big one, man. This is 2 of the better teams, 2 of the teams that we like a lot here on the show. One of them is going home. Oh. I have a tough time, man. I have a tough time going against the Battlehawks at home in that home field environment in the playoffs. The crowd, they got to break the record, I'm sure, which will be broken the subsequent week in the championship game. But I don't feel great. Because like we said, I think the Brahmas rightfully feel like they pulled it off this week and feel like they could pull it off again. And they might take the sting of this week's loss and the confidence that they gained, that hard-hitting defense with all those playmakers, and take, I also don't feel good about it because, by the way, final score, Memphis 19, Houston 12. Memphis gets their second victory. They will pick number 1 in the UFL draft. Game just wrapped up as we're watching it. Back to the playoffs. I don't feel great about it because I think that AJ Smith, that offense, I think you have to assume that they're going to do better from the quarterback position in this upcoming week. And that will make the difference. Either way, I'm still going Battlehawks at home. They're still so loaded. The crowd is going to be absolutely insane. I almost just said a bad word. Axe, who you picking, man?
Oh, man, it's really tough. I'm going to say the Battlehawks slightly, but I'm concerned because, like, that Brahmas defense is going to wreak havoc against AJ McCarron. If he's not,
And if that
100% healthy,
ankle's still, yeah.
that's what concerns me. So,
one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest is what that's going to be if he's still not right, because that's what kind of a contest it's going to be with that defense flying around.
Yeah, it's going to be up to Akeem Butler. He was one of the league leaders in receiving yards, if I'm not mistaken. Either receiving yards or receiving touchdowns. It was one or the other.
He's arguably the better of the two. That's going to be the great wide receiver battle. Jontre Kirkland, Hakeem Butler. Loaded game. Loaded game.
Yeah, Kirkland's going to do what he do. He's going to get his receptions. Like, I don't know. Like, it's going to be tough. Single-digit game. I'm going to roll the Battlehawks only because I don't know about the health of Chase Garbers, and I don't really trust Dormady on the road. Like, that's the main thing. I don't trust Dormady on the road. So that's why I'm going to roll with the Battlehawks. It's all dependent on AJ McCarron's health, though.
Yeah. True. What's your pick?
You know, I wish Tay was here because he's been the Battlehawks guy all season. And I want to pick against his team. Unfortunately,
oh no,
I
not
don't know that
Battlehawks. Well, put the money on the Brahmas now.
Well, see, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. The sports betting guy within me wants to go Brahmas.
Yeah.
Sensibly, though, I think it's very hard to win a championship game on the road with a quarterback who's Your defense can pull it off because, once again, AJ McCarron might not be AJ McCarron that we've seen for a good part of the season. But if AJ gives you what you need, the defense for the Battlehawks shows up. And then, of course, the sports guy within me is like, oh, man, the championship is going to take place regardless in St. Louis, right? So
yeah,
if that's the case, I just feel like the serendipity of it all is that if you get the Stallions winning and you get the Battlehawks winning, you get these two big behemoth teams for the championship and in front of the biggest crowd. I think that makes more sense. I think it fits better for the league in general to end the season that way. And honestly, I just 100% feel like that's going to be the one that that happens. And I thought that from I think we talked about that, from jump. I think that was the matchup we kind of all saw happening. Obviously, Eric picked the Panthers, but I'm going Battlehawks, Stallions versus Battlehawks, battle of the two best teams most of the year. So, I would love to see the Brahmas pull it off. I'd love to see the Panthers pull it. If Panthers and Brahmas both pull it off, I would absolutely love it. But I don't think that's the best thing for the league because St. Louis going into their own place for the championship, that's just one of those stories for sports where you're like, you gotta have it.
They might get 50,000 in that thing if they host the championship game.
And you need that because the UFL, and this is not even about the game, it's just about helping grow the league and reaching out. St. Louis to get a team that they fully believe in and be fully behind. And then you have, obviously Birmingham, they need, and Michigan Panthers too, like you need those cities and those states behind those teams because it helps to grow the league even more. The league has done a pretty good job of staying consistent. The ratings have been fairly consistent. But you notice that the Battlehawks bring in ratings, the Stallions bring in ratings. You just need that for the betterment of, and I mean, Eric and I know very well when it comes to ratings and betterment of your organization. You need that. So I think that's the game. I think people will tune in for that. If you'd say the Stallions team is almost undefeated, they went and they made it to the championship.
100%.
Battlehawks are the second best team. Everybody had them high on their boards, and they have the biggest crowds. They come out and to support their team. I don't think there's any way. Like, I don't want to go that route and say what I want to say, but I'm like, in sports, every now and then you get a couple games.
Things work out. Yeah.
Where things happen to go a certain way, and it just so happens to favor the home team or the team you want to put in the in the driver's seat, so to speak.
So I do want to say, if for some reason something we don't know is going on, or maybe something got tweaked, if this is Manny Wilkins next weekend, we're all flipping to Brahmas, right?
His mobility.
If it's the ballad of Manny Wilkins,
yeah.
If it's the ballad of Manny Wilkins,
issues, but
yeah, I don't necessarily see that, but if it happened, yeah, I'd consider that. Once again, that plus 1,600, that plus 1,600 still looks. If I were a fan, I don't know, if I were a fan that was like put that bet in, you might want to check and see if you got a cash out option right now, because it might be nice. So might want to do that.
Well, what will be nice will be this playoff edition of the show. Tell me about it next week. If you like us, check us out. We are DAR Sports Media. We are also on YouTube. Look for DAR Sports Media on YouTube. I ran down all of the phenomenal shows we have here on the United Football Media as well. Please be advised, once again, if you check us out, DAR Sports Media on YouTube, it is not a PG environment like it is here on the United Football Media, the professional for all ages presentation that these guys have on the United Football Media. We're so thankful for the opportunity to work with these guys and all of the fine shows that go around this media conglomerate. This has been Tell Me About It from the United Football Media, covering the United Football League. It's playoff time, baby. Next week, we will be back better than ever, and we will tell you about it, because this has been Tell Me About It.